Alright, so I want this to be, at least until we get news on Fury Usyk, the last real in-depth video I do where I'm talking about the whole debacle that happened on Saturday night with the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury situation. And I want to title this video Tyson Fury Deserves the Criticism. Now, I think I've done a video quite similar to this in the past, maybe even used the same title. But it's a very relevant title because those saying, we're going too harsh on Tyson Fury, I say no, we're not. I say he absolutely 100% deserves the criticism. And this is going back, you could even argue this is going back maybe a decade when Tyson Fury first showed that he is someone who is going to be economical with the truth and really maneuver his way carefully through his career and try and make the fans out to be fools. Now, I want to address the people saying, do we really need to talk about it? Is it really a big of a deal? At the end of the day, he still won the fight. He did win the fight. And to be honest with you, I felt that, it could have went either way, but I've no issue with Fury getting the decision. I don't, right? I've no issue with it, right? It's a close fight. Could have went either way. He got the win, all right? But you need to remember that going into this fight, all right, he was claiming to be the best heavyweight of this era and of all time, right? To be going around making those claims, right? And not backing it up, but we'll talk about that in a wee bit. But to go and make those claims, right? Claim you're the greatest of this era, you're the best of this generation, etc., 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 right? To go in there against a debutant, get dropped and struggle to a split decision, right? Best believe we are going to hold you to the high regards you set for yourself, right? Different if it had been a Carlos Takam going in there, who was not the best by any stretch of the imagination of this era or of all time, not even in the same universe. Different story. You want to hold yourself to such high standards. Well, when something like this happens, we're going to hold you to it. And those saying, does it really matter he won? I'll give you an analogy, right? Imagine we're going into the World Cup, right? And England are being touted. I'm just using England as an example, right? England are being touted as one of the favourites to win it, all right? You've played a couple of international games. You've looked good. Confidence is high. Team is looking good. All the critics and all the pundits are saying it's the best team around. They're going to win, right? And their last international game before going into the World Cup is against Gibraltar. Now, Gibraltar are a ranked amateur side. That's what they are. And let's say England played them and they win. But they win 4-3 after coming from 3-1 down and only win in stoppage time. Now, yeah, it's a win. But are the fans going to be happy with that? No. Are the pundits going to be happy with that and expect England to do well in the World Cup? No. You're going to look at that and say, you went life and death with Gibraltar? Italy, France, Argentina, Portugal. What the hell? What are they going to do to you when you play them if that's how you look against Gibraltar? That's essentially what Tyson Fury did against Francis Ngannou. It's not even like Mayweather. Mayweather was retired. He wasn't even looking to stay active in the welterweight division. He was just having that one fight and then going. This is a guy who was talking going into the fight about how it's going to be Alexander Usyk in December and that Usyk better not pull out with an injury and this, that and the other. And now the fight is being pushed back because Tyson Fury apparently has cuts, which I didn't see any on fight night. They showed a picture of his face post-fight. Yeah, he's got a black eye, but cuts? I don't see any cuts. So now they're pushing this back to February, right? Tyson Fury also claims, right, to be, and his fans claim it, his dad John claims it, everyone in Team Fury claims it, right, that he is the greatest of this era and potentially of all time, putting himself up there with the likes of Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, etc., the greats. Now, you're going to want to hold yourself to their same standards, right? If you're going to compare yourself to them, I'm going to hold you to their standards, I should say, right? Muhammad Ali, widely considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. In my opinion, he absolutely is. I love Muhammad Ali. Absolutely just incredible in and out of the ring. An unbelievable human being. In the ring, we're going to talk about, though. Did he ever leave a stone unturned? No, he didn't. At 22 years old, he went in there against Sonny Liston, a feared champion, and he beat him twice. You can say what you want about the second fight, right? I understand where you're coming from if you say that fight was, yeah. But nevertheless, he still went in there and fought him. The heavyweight division in the 1960s wasn't stacked. So he beat who he needed to beat. He beat the Floyd Pattersons of the world. He beat the early Terrells, the Zora Foleys, etc. They were really the best of who we had back then. You know, your Joe Frazier's wasn't really there. You know, Jerry Quarry and stuff like that. They weren't really established. Ken Norton, etc. He has a hiatus of 3 years. Comes back, not the same. Has his comeback fight against Jerry Quarry, right? Yeah, he wins the fight, cuts Jerry Quarry up pretty bad. But you can see he's not the same fighter. But nevertheless, he goes and faces Joe Frazier. He loses. He beats Joe Frazier in the rematch. He fights Ken Norton. He loses. He fights him again in the rematch. He beats him. He fights George Foreman. He fights Ronnie Lyle. He fights Ernie Shavers. He fights Jimmy Young, etc. He was fighting the best available contenders and champions of his time. Has Tyson Fury done that? No, he absolutely hasn't. He's had 6 world title fights, 3 of them against the same guy. And no, the Ngannou fight wasn't a world title fight. It was only a 10-rounder. So he still only has 6 world title fights, 3 of them against the same guy. He's had 1 mandatory defense of his title against Dillian White, a guy who he could have fought 3 years prior in 2019. He added the stipulation with the BBC that you put the diamond belt on the line, which they said they would do. He still didn't fight Dillian White. He ended up going and fighting Tom Schwartz. And for those saying, why are you saying he was world champion? He didn't have the WBC title. One, I never said he had the WBC title. They were selling him as the lineal heavyweight champion. If you go and you type in Tyson Fury versus Tom Schwartz posters, it will say lineal heavyweight championship of the world. So they sold it on pay-per-view in America. Well, I don't know if it was pay-per-view in America, but it was pay-per-view in the UK at American time as a world title fight, Schwartz and Otto Wallin. Now, Frank Warren was saying they were his contemporaries in the heavyweight division, so he was fighting them. Fast forward to 2023, when he ducked Alexander Uysk earlier in the year, which he did, consistently moving the goalposts, right, but yet making out as though everyone in the division was ducking him, right? When people like Adam Cattrall were asking, why doesn't he fight the Frank Sanchez's, the Martin Bacolis of the world, right? The 2 things that Warren said, well, one, why should he fight them? Who are they? No one knows who they are. Well, who the hell was Tom Schwartz? Who the hell was Otto Wallin? No one knew who they were, but you were still happy to put those fights on pay-per-view, Frank, and sell them as a world title fight. And second, you say, well, Fury would beat them anyway. Do you know that? I mean, why do we have sport then? If you know the result, if you know this person or this team is just going to win, what's the point in having a tournament? I mean, you look at darts, go into a tournament, well, everyone thinks Gerwin Price is going to win, so what's the point in having the tournament? Well, you don't know that until everyone plays one another and we see who wins at the end. Everyone thinks Man City is going to win the Premier League, so, what's the point in turning up? Oh, Liverpool bet them and Arsenal bet them. Oh, yeah, that's why we have sports, because you don't know. Just because you think someone beat everybody, it doesn't mean they do. I'm sure most people in the 80s thought Mike Tyson, in fact, they definitely did, thought Mike Tyson was invincible. Oh, along comes Buster Douglas. Well, what's the point in that fight? Buster Douglas will never beat he beat him? That's what sport is, much less boxing. So for people like Garrett A. Davis and Frank Warren to go and say, well, why should he fight? He's going to beat them anyway. Do you have a crystal ball you can look into and see that? No. Well, then the only way to figure that out, guess what, is for him to fight them. Until he fights them, we don't know. You can speculate. You can say, I think he beats them. But to categorically say, well, he beats them anyway, so what's the point in fighting? No, it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. So all this, and you want to go back further, Tyson Fury, when it comes to moving the goalpost for a fight and not taking fights at the time when he should have, you go back to, it was late 2012, David Price was in the peak of his career. Now I know, with the benefit of hindsight, it's easy to say, gee, if they had a fought, Fury would have won. And yes, with the benefit of hindsight. But that was at a time where David Price hadn't shown any vulnerabilities. All right, the Matt Skelton fight, he did show worrying signs, but in terms of clear vulnerabilities like chin, stamina, he hadn't shown any of that. And there was talk, Frank Maloney was even saying, we've made offers to Tyson Fury for this fight. I think it was a couple of $100,000 at the time. No go. No, he ducked Dave Price. He did. Went and fought Steve Cunningham. And, by then Dave Price had already lost to Tony Thompson. But, that could have been Tyson Fury. No. And back then, that was the first example. So you kind of say, like, okay, maybe he had something, bigger planned. But then as his career progresses, and you see with the Uysk situation earlier in the year, you go back to 2022, where Joshua was talking about taking step-aside money, Fury just having the Wilder fight, and then going, well, I need a tune-up fight. What? You just had a Wilder fight. What kind of tune-up fight do you need? We go with the early this year, talking about the fight happening. Usyk happy with his Saudi deal. Oh no, someone wasn't happy. I wonder who that was. Fight has to happen in Wembley. Okay, going to happen in Wembley, 70-30. Despite the fact you were going to offer Joshua, apparently 60-40, you're offering Usyk, a champion, where Joshua wasn't the champion, less. He accepts it. You move the goalposts and claim it's all down to Alexander Usyk. And then your trainer, Sugar Hill Stewart, comes over to train Lawrence Okolie and says, well, I've got a flight already pre-booked back to the US. I'm over here to train Okolie. So you let the cat out of the bag that you had never planned on fighting Alexander Usyk. So everything I just talked about there, the moving the goalpost, the swerve and fights, the saying, well, I don't need to fight my contenders for this. And I know that's more so Frank Warren, but saying, I don't need to fight them for this, that, and the other, right? Putting yourself on this pedestal and saying you are the greatest of this era, of this generation, and potentially of all time. To go and do that, and to have a performance like that against a debutante who had no real boxing experience, made his name in mixed martial arts, UFC primarily, to go and win it by the skin of your teeth, best believe you're going to face some criticism for that. Best believe it. Because for the last year, maybe more, you've been taking the boxing fans, taking everyone for fools. Oh, you have. And some people are happy with that. They're happy to be played fools. Like the song goes, some of them want to be abused. But the majority of boxing fans don't. So now, we're in a situation where you've had that performance. We're going to critique you for it. That's what we do. That's what we do on here. We report on news, we give our opinions, we say what comes to our mind. You backed yourself into a corner. That Usyk fight is signed. It has to happen. It's not happening December 23rd. Okay. February they're talking about. It has to happen next year. Because I believe that the Fury fans, the ones who are still around, have forgiven Tyson a lot. They might not admit it, but they've forgiven him a lot over the last year. If he pulls out of this fight, or does some shenanigans, or lets the contract go out to the point where Riyadh season is no longer happening, goes into April, Riyadh season is after, they're not going to offer the same money, and then he looks elsewhere. If he does that, unforgivable. And I think he's backed himself into a corner now because he knows, okay, there's no way out. I gotta take this fight. If I do try and swerve this, that's it. Credibility, whatever was left, it's gone. And we need to be putting pressure on him. I fully believe that doing these videos, people like me, Outmatch, Hatman, Ade, Dell, etc., Joe Stunner Boxing, people like that, putting pressure on Tyson Fury. When Frank Warren talks nonsense, when Fury talks nonsense, doing these videos, speaking about it, it has helped to a point where we are this close to undisputed. And we're going to make sure that fight happens. By hook or by crook, as the saying goes. This is the last proper time I'll talk on it. I might touch on it briefly on Midweek Report tomorrow. But for now, I will leave it there. Let me know your thoughts on everything I just talked about in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Honestly, I cannot emphasize enough, I cannot thank you enough for all the support. Over 14,000 subscribers. Blows my mind. Honestly, I cannot thank you enough. 15k by the end of the year, 20k by mid next year. Easy work. Easy work. We're going places, lads. Foundation is set in 2023, 2024. We're going to build something. We are. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support. Like the video if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll talk to you.
If you're a boxing fan and never want to miss a fight, Boxing Showtimes is the app you need. This is a professional boxing schedule in your pocket that keeps you up to date on what's going on in the world of boxing. Download now